I was extremely excited. I remember when the comic book came out, my much more woke and definitely more artistic birthday brother Christian posted a link on his Facebook feed. And while I don't read comic books, I instantly recognized the impact this would make, the importance for the culture. So I kept my ears plugged, my eyes firmly shut, and was sufficiently gobsmacked to see an article saying that the story would be adapted. And even more elated that it would be adapted on Netflix. This weekend, the new Netflix original dropped, and while it didn't seem to garner as much buzz as the very average, very basic, not very tall girl, I have to say, in a word, it was sublime. As a person who loves the blending of science and fantasy, and consumes film and television like it's my day job, I was truly satisfied with the show, thoroughly pleased. It was easily digested. Here's how, though. Hey stars, I'm over here editing the video and I forgot to realize that there was a short film in 2015 entitled Raising Dion, and it was essentially kind of a sort of pilot kind of trailer teaser for the comic book and for the series, and so I'm going to be including footage of that as well in my little discussion review here, but just wanted to mention that if you see similar footage with different people, it's because I'm using some of that as well. Alright, thanks for watching. Raising Dion. So we're thrust right into the life of Dion and his mother Nicole, after the death of his father, played by Killmonger himself, Michael B. Jordan. The child actor playing Dion is a riot. If anyone knows me, they know that I'm not a fan of children in general, and child actors often leave much to be desired, like silence. But this kid is different. I was intrigued. His precociousness was, yes, a bit annoying at times, and his emotional acting seemed a bit forced, but his delivery was both mature and childlike all at once. And his comedic timing was on point. I love comedy, and this kid is an intellectual joker. That's twice this year that kids have made me laugh the most. I wouldn't be surprised if this was written for an older kid, like 12 years old, and he just manages to deliver the punchlines effectively. In the beginning, I was a bit thrown off by the mother's acting choices as well. She was bewildered from the gate. And then there seemed to be quite an unearned exasperation for her the moment after her voiceover. But now as I type this, I can realize that that's just the sad bewilderment of a widow and the exasperation of raising a curious, vivacious child who refuses to not be themselves. And so it makes sense. Even if I don't love the way that she acted during some scenes or some takes that they left in. To be honest, I was triggered from the beginning. See, I grew up with a single mother. My dad isn't dead, and I had asthma. But I was always told that I was special. But instead of living as freely as Dion, I hid my powers because I didn't want to be a burden. I was very much rambunctious, but my physical limitations caused me and my mother to be very overprotective. And so as I watched the show, and especially in the first episode, I was scrunching my face like a bad gymnast meme, just in full disdain. But I plugged along because things eventually got interesting. I became invested, and while the show served as mainly background noise for the first couple episodes, something kept me watching. And here's what it is. So Dion's powers manifest early in the episode, and it's in the trailer, and so while you're impressed, you're also bothered because you saw it already and you knew it was coming, and so it's far too predictable. Dion gives this exposition, which feels forced, and we learn how he's at a new school, and they had to move because dead daddy and all, and the cool boys don't like him, but he has this one girl that wants to be friendly to him named Esperanza, but it's not like he wants that friend, he wants the cool boys to be his friend, and while he literally tells us this. And yes, kids do lament about their lives quite openly at that age because kids have no chill. It seems all pointless when you're just going to show us this in the very next scene. So anyway, this scene where Dion's telling us this, we also learn that Nicole, his mother, has been consistently late for work many times in the same week. And this is important to know because it will allow her for some subplots later on. So here we are, Dion is expositing with the best of them while practicing magic, and his mom is nagging him while foreshadowing nuances to dry plot points in the future, and it's all very, oh shit, power's gonna happen soon, and they do, and it's serviceable. But we move on to take Dion to school, and in the car ride we learn that he is a year younger than all the other kids, just to emphasize exactly how special he is. And so when he gets to school, sure enough, The older kids ignore him, bully him, and reject him. And then Esperanza shows up and comes in with one-liners and mature delivery. And quite frankly, if it weren't for this being about Dion, I would rather see subplots about her family than whatever Nicole was doing. Esperanza also schools Dion on where he can go hang out with the cool kids, even though she thinks that they're not going to like him regardless. And then reminds us that Nicole is late. So now, after seeing Dion get rejected, yep, you guessed it, she loses her job. And she's sitting in a coffee shop being consoled by her two girlfriends, one of whom we never ever see again, which I hate, because she had a funny line. She doesn't matter, that means none of this really matters, and we move on again, and we return to Dion, who now after school is at the skate park with the cooler older kids, and his powers manifest again after several attempts of not being able to skateboard properly, and he goes down a ramp and he jumps up and he's in the air. And this scene bothered me. I think it's supposed to be funny, but the length of this demonstration is telling me that this is a mesmerizing moment, but then there's this one kid's reaction that is definitely played for laughs, but I'm wondering, like, why is the scene so long and why is this in slow-mo bit? Comedy is about timing, and this was timed all wrong. Dion lands a jump, I don't know the term, I don't skateboard, and Nicole is there after school to embarrass him and nag him, and it all seems like, okay, good, we are going to get some consequences here. Nope. Back at home, we get an obligatory grumpy slumlord. TV stopped doing this. It's tried, it's overused, and it's boring. But also, we are introduced to Pat, played excellently by Jason Ritter. Oh, Pat, where do I begin? Pat is your run-of-the-mill meek nerd who is probably only mildly awkward, but is instead overly awkward because he's so defined by being awkward. Oh, and he likes comic books. Pat is Dion's godfather, his father is Mark's best friend, and is kind of a clinger, but he seems to mean well. Nicole isn't very nice to him. And now about halfway in, we can just see that Dion does whatever he wants because apparently Dion has invited Pat over. And this is why I was annoyed. I was like, this show is called Raising Dion and not a soul is raising this kid. Not really. Maybe like in the loosest definition of the term. But like seriously, this kid needs some consequences. And so then I'm sitting there like, yes, finally Nicole is going to lay down the law. But Pat talks her out of it. Pat, why are you showing up in people's houses without an actual invite? From an adult. And no, I don't blame Nicole. I mean, yeah, she had a bad day. She lost her job and, you know, there were Fruit Loops all over the floor and ants. So while Dion and Pat go get pizza, she soaks in the bathtub with a glass of wine. And here we have some great storytelling because we get to learn a lot about Mark. A little bit through flashbacks that Nicole is having while soaking, and also through stories that Pat is telling Dion. This is good writing. They informed Mark's character without beating us over the head with his benevolence, but there was one missed opportunity. And that was to give him and Dion some similarities. So far, other than in canon, we know that they are father and son. They look very much alike, they don't act alike. I mean, give them some similar traits. Have them do a tick or something, or like a leg shake or something. Josiah Taylor, the kid who plays Dion, is a capable actor. I'm sure he's able to adopt a quirk or something to show their similarities. So what we learn is that Mark was a storm chaser and worked all over the world with Pat, including Iceland, and that Mark has a cabin that he would go and relax and fish. Back at the house, Dion apologizes and then later loses control of his powers yet again, spinning things around the room as sort of a Mattel death tornado. And we find out there's possibly a pain equitable to stepping on a Lego, and that is having one spinning around and cutting you. Because the way that Nicole shrieks, you would have thought that she was stabbed or shot with a gun. Yikes. Nicole, of course, then freaks out as Dion starts to feel very ill or upset or a headache or something. It isn't really clarified. And we get to meet yet another person, Kat, Nicole's sister, who is a surgeon. I guess after a failed phone call, Kat texts her and tells her to come go to the emergency room, and Nicole doesn't listen. And so there we are sitting in the hospital, and Kat comes in, and she is basically being a raging B-word because she's a surgeon, and also she's, I guess, a logic-minded person. And it's like, I told you to take him to the emergency room, and you won't listen to me, so you're being ridiculous. And she also doesn't believe Nicole that Dion has powers. So instead of getting treatment, they leave. And I guess they just spend the night and wait it out till morning. In the morning, they decide to drive to the cabin. At the cabin, there's this cool scene where, like, Dion pulls fish out of water, and his mother tells him, like, fish need water in order to breathe. And so he creates these orbs of water around the fish in order to let them breathe. And then, of course, it gets very dramatic, and bad things happen again because he can't control his powers. And then later on that night, there's a storm happening, and there's this very kind of cool rain effect that is reminiscent of Prometheus, where various outlines or figurines of people materialize in the rain, but one of them is Dion's dad, and he's talking and speaking to Nicole, and he has an ominous warning for her. And now there's a mystery established, and then end of the episode. So just when you're like getting in there, of course they cut the episode. And I don't know why they cut episodes like this very much, because I mean it's Netflix and you're probably just gonna watch the next episode right afterwards anyway. But I get it. I mean, maybe they're gonna syndicate this. Does Netflix shows get syndicated? I mean, I guess if they're going on syndication, then you could do it episode by episode. You know, much like they used to do with like Dexter. But like Dexter was still a like week by week sort of series. Anyway, all I know is that I of course watched the next episode right afterwards because I had to know what that was all about and see what the aftermath was. And I'll get to that later. So those are my thoughts so far. At the time of writing this, I'm in the midst of my second viewing of the show, and my thoughts haven't changed much other than I'm really enjoying Jason Josiah's and the girl who played Esperanza's performances this time around much more. But I want to know, have you seen Raising Dion? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Are you curious about Nicole's long-lost second bestie? Do you think that Netflix should start syndicating shows? Because that's probably a better way to make money. Did I just think of ways to make money for Netflix? Let me know in the comments below. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Check out the description for my Patreon. And if you like this review, maybe you want to check out my review for Tall Girl, because I have a lot of opinions about that. Thanks, stars. Bye.